Tonight on To the Point.
We have a way to rebuild in a community that lost everything.
Nearly 4 years after the Caldor fire, crews broke ground on the first home under a new program in El Dorado County. How recovery is still unfolding in Grizzly Flats. Plus, could Sacramento residents be charged for parking in front of their own homes? What City Council is considering. As flood protection funding is on the chopping block, the Northern California communities that could be at risk. And on the back roads, we head to Gold Country to see the one-of-a-kind rail bus still running.
Good evening. As always, thank you so much for ending your week with us. On To the Point, I'm Alex Bell. The rural community of Grizzly Flats, devastated in the 2021 Caldor fire, celebrated a big step forward today. Crews broke ground on the first home to be rebuilt under a new program the county officially established just last year. ABC 10's Becca Habegger spoke with a couple who lost everything in the Caldor fire, and they are eager to see their home rebuilt.
1, 2, 3.
A groundbreaking ceremony Friday morning gave the El Dorado County community of Grizzly Flats some long overdue hope.
What we needed was one simple thing.
A house.
Houses.
Kathy Adams and Mac McNeil had a one-bedroom home on this lot.
I made it my official residence in '79 when I got out of the Navy.
They lost it, all their belongings, and cats in the Caldor fire, August 2021.
Yeah, we relived the night of the fire every day.
The Caldor fire burned more than 220,000 acres and destroyed more than 1,000 structures, including hundreds of homes in the Grizzly Flats area. Since then, it has been a struggle for the entire community to recover. This will be the first home using a new county ordinance.
El Dorado County supervisors established something called the Title 25 program. Now, Max and Kathy's house is the first to be rebuilt using Title 25, but more than 24 other families are also on the list.
Title 25 is actually a good thing because it's an owner builder. They could actually mill their own lumber, build their own houses with less restrictions. So there's not going to be any solar or sprinkler requirements on 750 square foot or less.
El Dorado County Supervisor George Turnbow says 40% of the population here at the time of the Caldor fire were seniors living on fixed incomes, and many, like Mac and Kathy, had no homeowners insurance.
Title 25 is to help them rebuild, is what it is. Help them get back on their feet instead of living in RVs.
Living in an RV on one's property is normally not allowed, but in the wake of the Caldor fire, county supervisors passed an ordinance to issue temporary permits to wildfire survivors. That ordinance has already been extended and is currently set to expire at the end of 2026.
When it does come up, we're going to make sure that we extend that. So until we get all these homes built that we're working on.
Title 25 offers property owners free, pre-approved building plans.
You can take those plans. All you need to create is a site plan to go with it to show where on your property you want to put this house, where the septic's going to be, those kinds of things. We will help you.
Karen Garner is head of El Dorado County's Planning and Building Department. She says this is available to any Caldor fire survivor in the Grizzly Flats and Phillips areas.
This is unique. This is different. It's not the way we've always done things, which is a good thing.
So it'll be okay.
Caleb Armstrong is CEO of Nonprofit Construction, the organization leading the rebuild for Kathy and Mac.
So there's about 10 families currently we're working with about 27 homes we need to rebuild. The Title 25 rebuilding is a great aspect and great model moving forward in disaster recovery in the state of California, especially with wildfire season approaching.
I asked Kathy and Mac how they're feeling seeing the construction of their home.
It's overwhelming, and yes, we'll believe it when we see it.
They hope Title 25 will deliver on its promises and that it can help others in the community too. In Grizzly Flats, Becca Habegger, ABC 10.
And one major reason why Grizzly Flats neighbors are still struggling is that FEMA never granted individual assistance to survivors of the Caldor fire. That would have unlocked funds for people who were displaced. And survivors say that they continue to fight for state and federal funding nearly 4 years later. New tonight, the Davis Police Department says it's arrested a suspect in connection to a shooting at the Davis Community Park. The shooting happened around 3 p.m. back on April 13th during the city's annual Picnic Day celebration. 3 people were hurt. Officers arrested 19-year-old Joseph Davis and seized a loaded gun at his home. Police say they are looking for at least one more shooter. Anyone with information is encouraged to call them. 4 California flood control projects could lose funding from the Army Corps of Engineers under new cuts by President Donald Trump. The 4 areas impacted are projects along the American River, the Pajaro River, and San Joaquin River, along with a project out in West Sacramento. They are designed to protect areas that are at high risk of flooding during atmospheric river weather events. California's U.S. senators say these cuts could put communities at risk if they are not addressed.
Sacramento's Natomas Basin. The Army Corps describes it as, quote, one of the most at-risk areas in the nation for catastrophic flooding. This is what the president would zero out. One of the most at-risk areas in the nation.
All these communities and others are now at higher risk of flooding because Donald Trump's playing politics with federal funding.
Senator Schiff says this will be a $126 million cut for the state. ABC 10 did reach out to the Sacramento district of the Army Corps of Engineers, but we did not hear back. Governor Gavin Newsom today announced that California is joining 11 other states to advance clear car initiatives. And it comes after the U.S. Senate voted to revoke California's authority to set its own clean air standards, including banning the sale of new gas-powered cars by 2035. Now, the coalition led by the U.S. Climate Alliance includes states such as Colorado, New York, and Oregon. Participating states plan to work together to make cleaner vehicles more accessible by reducing costs, expanding charging infrastructure, and developing next-generation standards. Governor Newsom and California Attorney General Rob Bonta says that they also plan to file a lawsuit once Trump officially revokes California's waivers. Well, the city of Sacramento is considering charging residents for permits to park in their own neighborhoods. It's part of a proposed fee structure for the residential permit parking program as the city faces a $44 million budget deficit. Right now, about 30,000 residents hold permits. The program costs the city nearly $1 million a year. And under the new plan, permits would cost about $120 annually or $60 for low-income households, potentially generating $961,000 in revenue. And the idea is really sparking debate among city council members.
Only places that have residential parking programs are places that are impacted by people from outside the area coming and parking on the streets those people have in their neighborhoods. So they are being they're not only losing the opportunity to park on their streets, now we're proposing to charge them for the privilege of losing it.
City Council will continue discussing the proposed parking fee and other budget options on June 3rd at the city's Budget Committee meeting. Next, on To the Point, new rules at one local lake, why you won't be able to take your boat on the water.
It'll be a really nice weekend for whatever you have planned for the holidays. 86 on Saturday, 80 on Sunday, 82 on Monday, and a strong Delta breeze throughout the holiday weekend. I'll break down what to expect afterwards, though, after the break.
Plus, President Trump taking aim at Apple and a new tariff threat, what it could mean for your wallet. Memorial Day weekend, marks the unofficial start of summer, and today is one of the busiest travel days of the year. TSA says it expects to screen more than 18 million passengers between now and the 28th. And it's not just the skies. Nearly 40 million Americans are also hitting the road this weekend. And this is a look at traffic across our area. There's been a few backups throughout the day, so if you're planning to head out, make sure you give yourself a little bit of extra time on the roads. And if you're planning to visit Lake Comanche, there are some new rules, so you might want to listen up. Boat launches are closed due to the invasive golden mussel species. The East Bay Municipal Utilities District also made the decision to ban alcohol at the lake. Park rangers and sheriff's deputies will be enforcing the new rules. People found with alcohol, you could either be kicked out or in some cases, you might face citations. But let's get over to meteorologist Brendan Minchef. It's going to be a gorgeous weekend if people do want to get outside. It's going to be pretty nice, but a little warm.
Yeah, a little warm, but not hot. And certainly it's going to cool off as the weekend goes on. 79 is where we are right now. We only made it into the low 80s across the valley today. 76 in Elk Grove, 77 Stockton right now, 78 in Manteca, 79 Modesto, 75 in Tracy, 74 Fairfield, 76 in Vacaville, 60s and 70s in the foothills, 60s up in the high country at the moment. It was very gusty yesterday. Today's not the case, but we do still have a Delta breeze developing. It's not going to be as strong as what we saw yesterday, but we are actually going to have the return of some stronger breezes as we head through the weekend. So over the next few hours, upper 60s at 9 o'clock to start the long weekend. starting off around 50 degrees tomorrow. Should be a clear and quiet night. It'll be warmer tomorrow than where we were today. Mid to upper 80s across much of the valley, and the upper valleys likely going to climb into the low 90s. But you see one of those stronger breezes developing. Once again, maybe an isolated shower in the high country tomorrow. Can't completely rule that out. Sunday is cooler. Highs again very similar to today. Upper 70s, low 80s, but with a stronger delta breeze developing. And then the same story continues Monday. So Sunday and Monday, very, very nice. Low 80s both days with strong delta breezes. And of course, that stronger wind is going to mean some elevated fire danger, but that is just kind of inherent for this time of the year and until we get more rain, whenever that next shows up. But here we go. Timing out these winds a little more. Saturday, you see a decent delta breeze developing, gusts of about 25 miles per hour. Stays gusty overnight into Sunday, and then Sunday afternoon and into the evening, you see an even stronger wind developing with gusts up to about 35 miles per hour. But that pattern is going to change. High pressure builds in right after the holiday weekend comes to an end, and then it doesn't really go anywhere. In fact, it will just get hotter as next week goes on. So could we see our first triple-digit temperatures of the year? I think we absolutely could towards the end of the month, about May 30th, May 31st. I've got forecast highs over 100.
All right, Brendan, thank you. Next, on To the Point, tariff tensions rise. Why Trump is now targeting Apple and the EU and what it means for your wallet. And then on the back roads, we're heading out to Nevada County, where a museum is showcasing rare handcrafted rail buses. Welcome back in. Let's get into your price points tonight. President Donald Trump is threatening to impose steeper tariffs against the European Union and major tech company Apple. The president is pressing the latter to move manufacturing to the U.S. from Asia, and it comes as his administration is in the middle of trade negotiations. Christian Cordero has the details from Washington.
Halfway through its 90-day pause on tariffs, the Trump administration's negotiations have yet to bear much fruit as the president today takes a bite out of Apple. In a social media post, President Trump wrote the tech giant will have to pay a tariff of at least 25% if it doesn't move manufacturing from Asia to the U.S.
We're talking about the iPhone now, and, you know, the iPhone, if they're going to sell it in America, I want it to be built in the United States.
Sources tell ABC News Apple CEO Tim Cook was at the White House this week, and Apple has pledged to invest $500 billion in the U.S. over the next 4 years, expanding its factories and artificial intelligence footprint. But the consensus among industry experts is Apple cannot feasibly move its manufacturing operation from Asia to the U.S. Several consumers at the Apple flagship store in New York City against any tariffs on iPhones.
It's awful because they're pretty expensive as it is.
I think tariffs have never worked, and I think it's going to be a tax on the consumer.
In a separate post, Trump today threatening the European Union with a 50% tariff, steeper than the initially announced 39%, and imposed sooner, Trump says, on June 1st.
I'm not looking for a deal. I mean, we've set the deal. It's at 50%. But again, there is no tariff if they build their plant here.
I think the European Union cannot cave in and should not try to appease Donald Trump at this point. The experience of the last couple of months is that this US president actually blinks.
Trump says he's unhappy with the lack of progress in tariff talks with the EU. His Treasury Secretary today said he hopes the threatened tougher tariffs will, quote, light a fire under the EU. Christian Cordero, ABC News, Washington.
The U.S. Mint has made its final order of penny blanks and plans to stop producing the coin when those run out. The move comes as production costs are currently at almost 4 cents per penny. There are about 114 billion pennies currently in circulation in the United States. By stopping the pennies production, the Treasury expects an immediate annual savings of about $56 million in reduced material costs. It's time for another trip on the back roads. Tonight, John Bartel takes us to Nevada County to ride a rail bus, which is a rare piece of railroad history.
When you think of railroads, you might think of trains, steam engines, and boxcars.
Okay, go!
And here at the Nevada County Narrow Gauge Railroad Museum, they do have all of that. Plus this thing.
More hope.
What are we on right now? What is this thing?
This is a rail bus that we're on right now. We can carry 20 people.
Rail buses are pretty much what they sound like. They're gasoline-powered buses with railroad wheels on them. And they're pretty rare, according to docent Specs Lanham.
Absolutely old school, and these kind of conveyances were all built by the chief mechanics in the respective railroad shops. There was not a place you went to buy these.
Rail buses were not usually built to run on larger standard gauge railroads with freight trains. They were generally built to run on smaller tracks called narrow gauge railroads that linked small towns or logging camps to larger main railroads.
And so the Nevada County Narrow Gauge was built to move gold, timber, agriculture, and people down to Colfax from Nevada City and Grass Valley.
Back in the day, Nevada County was industrious, but difficult to get to because of the mountains, and you'll get to experience that on the museum's tour.
And we're going to back up into the meadow doing a maneuver called a switchback, which is how you climb up a mountain. You go forward, back, because you can't go straight over.
The area became much more accessible when brothers John and Edward Coleman invested in the narrow gauge tracks because, unlike standard gauge, it could be built on sharp corners and steep hills.
John Kidder was actually a civil engineer who built the Nevada County Narrow Gauge. And then the Coleman brothers wanted to get out of the business, so they sold it to John and Sarah Kidder.
Fun fact, after John Kidder died, Sarah Kidder became the first woman to actually own and operate a railroad. And this all happened before it was legal for women to vote.
She took over. She was in the office. She paid the dividends. She did the scheduling. She ran the railroad till 1913.
These days, the Nevada County Narrow Gauge Railroad Museum keeps the small track heritage alive by restoring some of the last remaining narrow gauge locomotives.
What are we on now? We're on engine number 5, an 1875 Baldwin locomotive.
Tim O'Brien is the vice director of the museum and says engine number 5 started out as a logging locomotive near Lake Tahoe, but then it became a movie star.
How many movies has it been in? We figured about 26, 28 of them.
One of engine number 5's most famous scenes was in an early John Wayne movie called The Spoilers.
In the movie The Spoilers, they commandeered the train from the operators, and John Wayne was running it, and the other guys were firing rifles out the cab. And they ran it through a big wall and overturned the whole thing.
Hollywood used engine number 5 from the 1940s to the 1970s because narrow gauge tracks were easier to move around to different set locations. After it retired in the 1980s, the museum acquired it and gave the engine a makeover and joined the rail bus as an ambassador for narrow gauge history. From the Nevada County Narrow Gauge Railroad, I'm John Bartell. Hope to see you on the back roads.
And you can always find more Bartell's Backroads destinations on the ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app in the travel section. Just download the free app straight to your TV. And we're back after this short break. It's a busy weekend for events, of course, in the North Bay. Music can be heard across wine country as Bottle Rock Napa Valley returns for its 3-day music festival. Green Day, Justin Timberlake, and Noah Kahan are the headliners. There's also lots of wine and culinary festivals. And then out here in Sacramento, the fair is back this weekend. The 5-day event includes concerts, carnivals, exhibits, and of course, lots and lots of food. It's running from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. until Sunday, and we do have a link of how you can get those tickets on our website at abc10.com. As always, thank you so much for watching and inviting us into your home. If you have something you think me and the team should be looking into, you can always email us at tothepoint@abc10.com. Have a great night and a safe weekend. We'll see you here on Monday.